Friends, we're back. Day 2 of the lesson, changes with heat. Today's going to be a lot of mainly experiments. So I'm super pumped. Don't try this at home, but make sure before we always start our experiment with everything going on, you got to disinfect. So we need to clean our working area, okay? Clean the working area. Make sure you got this stuff. Clean it up. Don't try this at home, but still clean. Don't forget. Okay. So once I get my stuff together, I clean up, make sure that everything's fresh and nice. Don't want any germs, of course. Now let's move on to today's lesson. So yesterday we talked about changes in heat. We looked at LeBron. Y'all caught me straight up playing 2K. Like, wasn't prepared, but y'all caught me. And that's okay. But we're back in my kitchen. You see my window. We are ready to go. All right. Now, some of you have done this in class with me already, and that was super fun. I got some pictures from it last time. We met at the carpet. This time, we're going to do it in my kitchen. Last time we did it with fire. This time, we're just going to use the stove. But I want you to look. Now, I've got 2 pans here, and if you can see, I'm going to try to scoot the camera down a little bit. You can see where I've got some things in the camera. Now let me get a chair so y'all can see me a little better. Now if you can see here I am. Yeah. So if you can see here, what I've got going on is I've got 2 pans with the same things inside of them. And today what we're going to look at is how heat can affect these 2. Stay tuned. Later at the end of the lesson, just for fun, I'm going to add some extra stuff just to see what happens. But what I did, and I can prove it, what I did was I put one in the freezer and one's been out normal. So this one's been in the freezer. I've got a piece of ice here. This butter, we've got butter. Butter's cold, it's frozen. I've got crayons, those are frozen. I've got pancake batter, it's frozen. You see me sticking my finger in there, nothing, okay? I've got some rocks, those are freezing cold. I got some popcorn, those are cold. And then I've got the one that's been in the fridge this whole time, and you can see the difference, because watch, if I stick my finger inside of the pancake batter, yuck, it's still good. I'm gonna wash my hands. I always make sure that you wash your hands before we do things like this. Keep those germs away. But yeah, so I've got some normal butter in here as well, popcorn, rocks, and we're gonna see how things change. So we're gonna take this one with, it's been in the fridge. I'm gonna put the stove on. Let me put the stove on, okay? The stove, turn it on to a medium area. We're gonna let it warm up a little bit. Hope you're doing well, by the way. Miss you guys so much. Hopefully we'll get to see each other again before too long. Got my coffee. Actually, it's water today. It's too late in the afternoon to drink coffee. But here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pause this. I'm gonna get recording on my phone. That way you can see specifically what's going on. Be back in a second, friends.
Friends, we're back. On my phone, we're recording our lesson. I've got a hot stove, so you can see it's red, it's hot. It is ready to go. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place our thing on here. We're gonna see how long it takes for things to change. Let me go get my paper. Y'all are gonna come with me. Here in a little bit, we're gonna go downstairs. We're gonna fill out this page together, okay? I'll put in a link in there for you to have your own page. Even have this page if you want it, or we can do it together. We'll figure that out. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna describe these substances, the way they look, the way they feel, and then after that, we're gonna say what happens when they're heated. And then we'll talk about what happens when cooled. As a matter of fact, I should probably put this one back in the freezer to keep it that way. Okay, let me grab my ice for this one. All right, here we go. And we're gonna see what happens to each thing. We're gonna count down how long it takes. Got a timer over here. Here we go. On my computer, I'll have a timer. Let's do a timer. Actually, a stopwatch. Yeah, let's do a stopwatch, okay? So here we go. I'm setting it onto the hot pan. Now, as we sit here for a second, I'm gonna start the timer. We'll see how long it takes for things. Hopefully what we'll start to see is maybe some popcorn begin to pop, pop, explode, or anything like that. I'm gonna scoot it over just a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna flip the camera around and be back again. All right, friends, we're back. You can see we're 1 minute and 14 seconds in, and you can already see, let me get a spoon. You can already begin to see that this butter is beginning to what? It's beginning to melt. You can see the ice. What is it beginning to do? The crayon. It's even beginning to do something. Ooh, and my favorite. You can see what's happening to that popcorn. Now I want you to give me a guess on what you think is going to happen to each one. We have a rock here, pancake batter, ice, butter, a crayon, and a popcorn. I want you to tell me what you think might happen. We're 2 minutes in, nothing is fully changed yet. We have some changes happening, not all the way. I might even turn up the heat a little bit. We've almost got a complete doneness within here, within our crayon as well. What do you think is going to happen to this pancake batter? I chose lemon blueberry. Tell me what you think is going to happen. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm going to set you guys down. You can watch me. I'm going to wash my hands again. Clean off my spoon. My knife. But we're here. We still got the timer going. We're at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and I will say we're super close to having our first item done. Our first item done. I'm gonna go grab our paper. We're gonna write our times as it changes, how long it takes, okay? How long it takes for each one to do. And as you can see, we're starting to see some almost finishing touches there with one thing. Ooh, watch this pancake batter. Watch as the heat. Did you see that? What is beginning to happen with that pancake batter? We're almost done here. We're still going. We're getting some really great examples. You see the ice? We still have a frozen piece of ice cube there. Now, what is happening here with the rocks? I want you to think about that. Ooh, we're so close here, friends. We're almost there. And as a matter of fact, I think that crayon's completely done. Let's look, 350. 350. So let's write down 350 for crayon. 350. Now, if you look, what do you think's gonna be next? Provide an example. Which one of these do you think will be completely done next? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna turn the fan on. We're starting to get some steam going on. Hopefully you can still hear me, friends. But I want us to look. I think the butter's now done. We're at 427. So let's go to butter. Come over. 427. Ooh, yes. Ooh, we're starting to see some bubbles here with popcorn. Okay, we're super close. Ooh, ice is almost done. Look at this. What is starting to happen with this pancake? Ooh, what's at that bottom? What do y'all see at the bottom? What's beginning to happen? What is that pancake beginning to do? It's almost done. Now, friends, do not try this at home, please. Do not try this at home, please. I'm afraid that the smoke alarm's gonna go off, so we're gonna pause it here. We'll be back. Hey friends, we're back. I messed up. I shouldn't have done this experiment, to be honest with you, but that's okay. We make mistakes and things happen, and that's all right. Y'all can see here, I almost started a fire in my apartment, and that's okay. So that's why I tell you not to try things at home. That's why I do it, not you do it. Smoke started coming up. So we're just gonna kind of go through these papers and we're gonna do the best that we can because Mr. Reed didn't get great results. And so we're just gonna try our best. And that's what really matters at this point, that we tried our best. I'm gonna share our screen with my second camera. As you can see here, I've got a document camera. And we're talking about heating it up, okay? And so as you can see here, I've drawn pictures of all the different things that we were trying to heat up. Rocks, crayons, some butter, a popcorn kernel, ice, and pancake batter. You can see where I have the substance, the picture, and the name of it. All right, I already got that done. You can see I've kind of added some things into our video as well on our paper. But let's go ahead and describe these substances when they were at room temperature. Now, if you don't know what room temperature is the way, like the state of matter something is in when it's just sitting out normal. Like, let's say you just set it out in the room. When it's just sitting out, what state of matter is it in? Is it a solid? Is it a liquid? Or is it a gas, right? So we're going to describe these different items at the room temperature. And we're going to give their state of matter. And we're also going to give maybe some texture or some color, how they look, how they feel, things like that. So let's go ahead and look at rocks. Now, our rocks were what color? If you remember, our rocks were white, right? So we could put white right here. And then our texture, rocks are just kind of crazy, right? So we could say that the rocks were maybe rough a little bit and small. They were pretty small rocks. I didn't put big rocks inside. See if I can make that a little clearer. And then last but not least, what state of matter were they in? Correct. They were in a solid state of matter. Now let's go down and finish the rest of these. The crayon, what color was he? He was also white. For texture, how does a crayon feel on the outside? Most of the time that crayon feels smooth, right? So let's write smooth there as well. And last but not least, what state of matter was he in before? Was it in before we placed it on the burner? Once again, correct. It was a solid. Now, for these ones, what we're going to do later, I'm going to make a test, like an exit ticket for you to fill in for this to see kind of what you learned. I know it was kind of a little bit different this time, and I apologize about that. Next week, it'll be way better. I promise. But let's look at butter real quick. Butter, when it was at room temperature, we know first off it was what? It's super soft, right? We could say it's soft. What color was it? Yellow. And I would even say, what state of matter would you say it was in? Probably a solid state of matter again, right? So our first three items we see were all solids. Now let's look at our last three. All right, our last three, we have a popcorn kernel. He was what color? Yep, he was yellow. He was a solid once again. It's pretty small too, right? They weren't very large. Let's look at ice. Now, ice at room temperature technically would be called what? Water, right? How do you know that? You know that because if you set ice out long enough, like you can see in my bottle here, it turns directly into what? Water. So you can see here at the bottom, I'm going to put an arrow to water because at room temperature, technically ice is water. Okay, so we're going to say ice at room temperature. We're going to call those the same. So I might even put water down here at the bottom. We know it's kind of clear. What state of matter was it in? It was a liquid, right? Yeah, that's all we really need. And it's wet. Water's wet, right? If you want to, you can put wet down there. And then the pancake batter. Let's come up with two. Pancake, it was kind of white. We don't have to worry about that. It would stay white. However, it was what state of matter? A liquid. Great job. It was a liquid. And we know that it's kind of, it was smooth and kind of runny a little bit. And that's because it was a liquid. Okay. So now if we move back to the top here, before we had this problem, I was going to give us where you had to predict and then give us the actual what would have happened. Kind of got a curveball there. So we're just going to say what happened in general when we added heat. When we were watching the video from earlier, what happened when we added heat to the rocks? Nothing, right? Nothing happened. So let's put nothing. Now I will tell you, sorry you cannot see that I, nothing. I will tell you that if you've ever heard of, now you're probably thinking rocks can't melt. Mr. Reed, you're crazy. Actually, rocks can melt. And I wonder if you can name what melted rock is called. Lava. So lava is actually melted rock. So technically, even a rock can melt and it'll turn into lava. But there's no way we're going to get lava. That has to be super hot. Wasn't even going to happen. Right. Not even a fire can make, just a fire in general can make a rock turn into lava. Let's look at a crayon. What happened when we turned the crayon, when we added heat to the crayon? When we added heat to the crayon, we got a liquid, right? What does that liquid turn into? What do we call that? Wax, right? It turned to liquid wax. Now, what else has wax? Candles, right? So crayons and candles are actually made out of the same thing. And so when we added heat, and when you add heat to a candle, the same thing happens as that wick burns down. What do you see? You see a liquid there, right? So that's what happened to the crayon. Now the butter, once again, what happened when we added heat? It turned to what? A liquid. Now I know what y'all are thinking. And I'm thinking the same thing. I love the smell of butter cooking. I know my mom used to cook with butter all the time. I cook with butter all the time. It smells so good. Now what about this popcorn kernel? Now we didn't see the popcorn do anything, but I know that you have all had popcorn before. What happens when we add heat to that popcorn kernel? How do you know? Well, duh. It's because you've eaten it. You know that when you put that popcorn into the microwave and it pop, pop, you start hearing that pop, it turns into a different solid. And so it pops into popcorn. It turns into popcorn. It's a different solid. Now, is it the same size that it was before? No, right? It's actually larger. So it changes shape. It changes size. Now, the shape here changed, but what didn't change? The size didn't change either. It still took up that same amount of volume. And the crayons changed shape, but it didn't get bigger. It was still the same amount of area that it took in. Now let's lastly talk about this ice. in the pancake batter. The ice, what happened when we added heat? It actually turned to water, right? The ice turned to water, and we know that water is a what? A liquid, right? And lastly, let's look at this pancake batter. When we started to add the heat, I saw it just a little bit. I started to scoop it just a little bit. You saw what was happening at the bottom. It was starting to turn into a what? An actual pancake, right? So it went from turning from a liquid into a solid, right? So it turned to a solid. So what are we seeing here? What are some things you were seeing? It started as a solid here and it stayed a solid, but we know eventually it would turn to a what? A liquid, because lava is liquid. We see the solid again turned into what when we added heat? Liquid, solid to liquid again, solid to another solid, liquid. It was a solid. Ice is technically a solid, and it turned to what? Liquid. If we add heat to water, what's that water going to do? Evaporate, and it'll turn into what state of matter? Gas. And last, but we see this liquid. We've been doing solid to liquid, solid to liquid, solid to liquid, but how can heat turn a liquid to a solid? Now, can we get the crayon back? If we melted that crayon and let it cool off, can we get that crayon back? Yeah, so the solid to liquid we can get back. Can we get butter back? Yeah. What can we not get back? Which two items can we not get back? Correct. We cannot get a popcorn kernel back. Once we pop popcorn, it stays popcorn. And then we also can't get pancake batter back. That liquid to solid transformation, we can't turn it back into a liquid afterwards. The pancake batter won't turn into liquid. Like, that just can't happen. So we see here the differences between from how a heat can turn a liquid into a solid, and that can't change, but how heat can make a solid turn into a liquid, and we can change that back. We can reverse that heat back. We weren't able to look at how it cooled. Time wasn't on our side for this. But I can tell you the third thing that would begin to happen is the ice. So this was first. This started to happen second. This would have been third. We saw pancake batter. It had been done fourth probably. Fifth, that popcorn finally would have probably popped. And rocks we'd have never seen change. So it would have been a dash or sixth. So yeah, I know that that wasn't the best science lesson that I could have given. I'm sorry about that. If you wanted, you can come up with your own little experiment here. It's not necessarily an experiment per se, but what you can do, and I'll even give us an example. We know that what happened first, which one started to change first? The crayons did. So I can put a crayon or candle 1, and I'll finish it off for us. Butter was 2, 3 was ice, 4 was pancake batter, 5th was the popcorn kernel, 6th was a rock. So I'll add these into the description for you to fill out your own blank if you would like to. However, what I'm going to show you is this is the time it took for the things to change. Now we saw that time was not on our side. Technically, it took 3 minutes and 50 seconds, which that's the same as 180 plus 50 seconds, 230 seconds. Now, do you see 230 on here? No. So let's just kind of come up with our own. And as a matter of fact, we'll move in increments of 10, 20. That's perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what we'll do. We'll just come up with our own. The candle was first. Let's say the candle took 20 seconds. So I'm going to go all the way across here. Okay. Candle takes 20 seconds. Okay. And then I'm going to pick orange for the rock. And we know the rock's going to take up all the time and plus some. Okay, so I'm just going to color in this whole box for the rock. And it would have even taken longer as we discussed. I know this looks red. I'm sorry, friends. But you can see, I promise, it is orange. I want you to fill out the rest of these, going from 1 to 6. Which one would be biggest? We know this one took the longest, this one took the smallest. So go in order, seeing which ones take the, see if you can do it. Place it in there. I'd love to see what your graph ends up looking like. Miss you guys. Stay safe.